In Module 2, we take on what is, I would say, at the heart of this whole course, and that is understanding by design. Understanding by design was developed by Jay McTighe and Grant Wiggins. It is a fundamental building block of PGIS. The Danielson framework uses extensively the ideas behind understanding by design. So what is it doing in a technology course? Well, when you look at all this information, and I'm going to walk you through what to watch, and I'll play a little bit, but I'm not going to play it all because it'd be silly for me to sit here and do that when you're perfectly capable of doing that on your own. But what they're trying to get you to see is some very simple ideas. Curriculum should not be just about marching your way through the textbook. It should not just be about doing little exercises or activities. It should be about demonstrations of understanding and then transfer of that understanding. Do you know what to do with it? Can you demonstrate it? Can you do it in another setting, in another venue? When we get that, then what they want to talk to us about is backward design. Now, backward design is also extremely simple to understand. How do you know where you're going? And what do you do when you get there? So we never start a journey without knowing where we're going. We know we're going to go to this particular place. And then the rest of the planning is, how are we going to get there? Backward design. And it's such a simple idea. So that begs the question again, where does the technology come in, Steve? Well, in my mind, the technology comes in through their use of something called facets of understanding. Now, remember the original thing. Teachers are teaching for understanding. Understanding should be done through demonstrations of understanding. Now, Jay and Grant do not, and I think they say this in the videos, they do not dismiss the idea of a test. Not at all. But they also try to look at assessment through a different lens that they call facets of understanding. And through that, you can then think about how technology might plug in. Now, as we saw in TPAC, technology is all about context. And in understanding by design, that is very much the case. When you see a classroom where you walk in, and at first there is no technology until you get to a certain point where kids are asked to demonstrate understanding, and then technology appears. You might walk into a class where technology is front and center the entire time, but then when kids are asked to do demonstrations of understanding, it disappears. It's one of those things where if we plan, and that's what one of the assignments is, if we plan and we deliberately think about where the technology will fit, then we have a successful experience. So what I propose to do is to kind of take you through how I would watch the videos so that they make sense. And there is a definite way to watch these videos so that you understand what Grant and Jay are trying to get across. This first video is kind of cute. You don't need to watch it. It basically uses the metaphor, or the analogy, of planning a trip, knowing where you're going. But if we go into this folder, and then inside of this folder are an amazing amount of resources about understanding by design. We're going to go into the top folder that says Understanding Articles, Books, and Videos. And this is where we need to start.
Hi, I'm Jay McTighe. I'm an education author and consultant, And my main work is around understanding by design, which is a framework for curriculum planning, for assessment design, and ultimately for teaching, with the goal of teaching for understanding and transfer. The key ideas in understanding by design are contained in its title, and there are two. Number one, we propose that we teach and assess for understanding and transfer. And some people would say, well, of course, doesn't every teacher want their students to understand what they teach? Well, perhaps, but the devil's in the details. To say we're committed to teaching for understanding raises an immediate question. What's worth understanding in all of the content that we could teach? And this is a challenge for teachers because every subject area has so much content. And there are also some things we value in school that transcend subject or discipline areas, like critical thinking, creativity, the ability to work with others. So the challenge of so much that we could teach is addressed in part by saying, but what's most worth understanding? And we propose in a straightforward way that what we want students to understand are the larger transferable concepts and processes within and across subjects. If we're clear about those big ideas that we want students to understand, it gives us a way of prioritizing our teaching and focusing our curriculum. It also implies that we're going to assess for understanding, meaning just because a student knows things doesn't mean they understand it. So it suggests that our assessments include not just tests of facts or basic skills, but assessments that have students to show their understanding through transfer. Can you use what you've learned in a new situation? Can you explain it in your own words? Can you teach it to someone else?
Okay, as always, Jay sums it up perfectly. I'm going to show you a couple more here, and I think you're starting to see how this is going to work. So what we're saying here is very simple. Teachers teach for students' understandings. Students' understandings must then be transferable. And the transference of that teaching then is done through putting students into situations where they demonstrate their understanding in ways that are new and different. Okay, so let's look at this second video I want you to watch. Now, as we start this, you're probably going to sit there and go, well, he just said that, Steve. Yes, but listen to the point that I think he makes better in this presentation, and that is the problem that we have as teachers, whether you're in kindergarten or at university. And the problem is very simple. What we do with all this content that we have to teach. So let's go ahead and take a quick listen to some of this.
All right, I'm going to begin with a brief look at the big ideas of UBD. Some of you are familiar with this, but not everyone. And it's an underscore point for this session. The two big ideas in understanding by design are suggested in its title. The first, we propose that the best, most effective teaching occurs when our focus is helping students understand the content being taught. Well, you might say, well, duh. Yes, doesn't every teacher want his or her students to understand what they teach? Perhaps, but the devil's in the details. A focus on understanding raises an immediate question. What's worth understanding in all that we teach? Because everyone in this room who's been a teacher understands a quintessential problem, and it's one from pre-K to university. Every teacher I know faces it, and we all know what it is. We have too much content and not enough time to teach it all. This is a quintessential challenge in teaching. How do we address this problem? Well, we could talk faster in class and get through more material, but it's not about covering material, it's about learning. And so the question raised by a focus on understanding is, what are the most important things that are most worth understanding in all that we teach? And how do we identify the big ideas, the transferable processes, the content that has the greatest intellectual meat? And we propose that that is part of our planning as well as our teaching.
Okay, that's a very simple, but I think very straightforward explanation. So I hope you're starting to think as you're watching these two about where technology fits. Now, you're going to hear Grant here in just a second, and Grant does speak directly to technology's place in understanding by design. But there's no, like, here's a step, put technology here, until you get to the lesson plan. And this was not in the original lesson plan that Jay and Grant developed. By the way, just as an aside, Grant Wiggins, right here, I actually sat through Grant Wiggins doing a professional development on understanding by design. Amazing guy, just a brilliant guy. Very easy to sit and listen to. He unfortunately has passed away, and that's a great loss to educational curriculum because he was a huge thinker. Jay is still with us, and that's good. By the way, understanding by design is something that you can find in any curriculum design book. The American Society for Curriculum Design, the ASCD, has every single one of their books available. It is, as I said, embedded in just about everything we do in this world of pages that we work within. Now, let you listen to Grant for a little while, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how we're going. So let's review real fast. I went in and I started watching Jay do sort of a long introduction, and then he does a very nice synopsis here. Now we're going to switch gears just a little bit, and we're going to listen to Grant Wiggins.
UBD is not a philosophy of teaching. It's not an approach to teaching. It's a planning framework. And it's really important to keep this in mind, that what you're trying to do is make it more likely by design that when you teach, you're more goal-focused, more effective. You could be a bad teacher with a good plan. In other words, we're not saying that a good plan makes you a better teacher necessarily. You have to learn pedagogical moves. You have to learn to be facile and skilled with how to pay attention to group dynamics. UBD doesn't help you with that, but it does prepare you to think short-term, long-term, what are we trying to accomplish? And it's like the famous line from Pasteur, chance favors the prepared mind. You're totally prepared for teachable moments, not in the sense of, oh, well, that's a cool student comment. Let's just run with that for 5 days. That's not serendipity. That's letting the students write the curriculum. And that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about being so prepared about where you want to end up that you hear a potential student comment as a fantastic entry point to go where you want to end up. In other words, it's your job to know where we want to end up. I don't think we make any apologies about that. But part of where we want to end up is building autonomous, proactive, thoughtful people.
So as you hear, Grant basically is giving us the same story. He's basically helping us see that we're just not here to do, here's some information, memorize it, spit it back at me. He is asking that we, by design, develop learning so that kids have a framework that they then can see how the pieces that we teach fit, and then by design demonstrate that understanding through transfer. Now, there you go. I just summed it up for you. Again, so let's go back, and I hope you noticed his comments about the pedagogical moves. That's an echo from Schulman. And TPAC, of course, although Schulman is in everything you see when you look at curriculum design. So what he's saying is that he wants us to keep the long-term goals and the understanding very much in view. This is what we don't do very often. It's kind of like, so what are we doing today? Well, we're jumping through the hoops because Mrs. Smith is a good teacher and we like her. But do we really understand what our long-term goal might be? We want to get the blend of content and performance right. That means, do kids, when they do demonstrations, are they really doing demonstrations of content? In other words, can they really understand the content enough that their demonstration helps me see it and maybe even see a new way of looking at it? Facets of understanding, insert here. And then, is what we're doing better engage learners? All you got to do is sit and watch a classroom where kids understand where they're going, and the content that the teacher teaches, because the teacher is a good teacher, makes the content interesting, engages kids in that interesting content. Then when we get to their demonstrations of understanding, they're thoroughly engaged and want to demonstrate their abilities to talk about what they have just learned. That's Grant. Here's the second part of Grant. So I'm going to play a little more of this, just so you see it. I hope you're noticing these are not very long. But as I said at the beginning, I don't want to sit here and just run these videos at you. That's a waste of my time. And the fact that you can drop in and out of this and watch them when you want to. So this is the second part. Now, this is where he's talking about assessment. And this is where I think we get kind of in trouble with understanding by design. So let's take a listen to this for just a little while.
The textbook is not the course. Repeat after me.
The textbook is not the course.
The textbook is a resource in support of your goals. The textbook doesn't know your transfer goals, and it frankly doesn't care about them. I work for Pearson. I've worked on 11 textbooks now, and it's endlessly interesting and endlessly frustrating because of what a textbook used to be until the Apple announcement. That's way cool. Way cool. Great possibilities. Go watch the webinar if you haven't seen it. It's really cool. To say it a slightly different way, this is a conversation that every department should always have. Again, this follows from the logic of backward design. If these are our goals, what should we do with the resources? You want to know how bad it is? At a good school math department, I had a woman who freaked out over this exercise. She said, well, all the chapters are important. I mean, she couldn't get beyond that we have to go through all the chapters, and all the chapters are important. I said, well, you do know, of course, this was in Michigan. I said, you do know, of course, that the textbook is written to be sold in 3 states. I mean, you know this. Florida, Texas, California. It's so bad. I was reviewing, as part of my contract with Pearson, I was reviewing a social studies book. I wish I remember the term. I should have written it down. Some term I never heard. I didn't know what the hell it was. I said, what is this? Texas. So here's a simple example to underscore the TMA logic, and this is in the design guide that you had excerpts from. But it's useful to sort of realize that this is the kind of conversation that has to take place. So, Chuck, what's your goal as a history teacher, U.S. history teacher? Well, I want students to understand the Constitution and the 3 branches of government. That's not a goal. That's the content with a pronoun in front of it. What we've been saying all morning is, what do you want them to be able to do with it? What meanings and transfer do you want? This is not a goal statement. And by the way, this is not a new idea. Ralph Tyler said this in 1938. He said it again in his book, The Principles of Curriculum Instruction, 1949. This is an old idea, that you can't design backward from content headings. You have to design backward from the outcomes you want with the use of content. This has huge implications for how you use Atlas Rubicon. Most maps stink because they're written backward from content. They're not written back from performance goals, from understanding goals. Oh, okay, I think I get it. So here's my meaning goal. Well, that has an interesting implication because I probably won't start in the distant past. I might go from the present to the past a fair amount in my teaching of U.S. history. Just because the book starts with Columbus and the Puritans doesn't mean our course should start there. This would immediately be clear if you were clear on these meaning goals.
Isn't he wonderful? That's what I mean by sorely miss this guy. I think this is one of those seminal points of all of understanding by design. The textbook is not the course. And you heard me repeat it because when I took this course, I went through that mantra with him. The idea is that the goals that we create should not be content. They should be students' understandings. That's always the goal. And those understandings then should be transferable. Kids can take the understanding, do demonstrations, and show that they have meaning to them. Understanding by design is probably, I think, one of the most misunderstood, but yet the most easily understood curriculum design that I've ever worked with. And I've worked with quite a few. And that's why I love it so much. Let's see. So we know that we have to watch the 2 J's, the 2 grants. What else do we need to do in this module? So let's see what else we have here in this package. This particular video is Grant. I think he's in a Skype call. In fact, I know he's in a Skype call. And they're trying to figure out what understanding by design and Common Core are all about. Well, we already understand what all that is about. We already understand it, that the content is not the end, that understanding and then transfer is the end. And that's basically, you don't really need to watch this one unless you just want to. The quality of it is sketchy, I'll be honest with you. Probably I should take it out. This last one that's here, this is sort of a review of everything that we've just heard in the 4 previous videos that I showed you. So let's just take a quick look at this. It's using a application called Powtoons, if you want to take a look at that.
Here are some thought drops to help you elevate the role of media products in our learning lessons. Wiggins gets a lot of credit for this thinking, but quite frankly, it's just common sense. That we really need to know where we're heading before we plan our resources, our time, and what we have to do to get there. 2 modern-day realities. Finding time in classrooms is becoming more and more challenging, and creating original work takes significant time. So we want to get very creative when using technology to invent tasks that have a high return on the time that we do invest. Wiggins has 3 simple steps, starting with the end in mind. What do you want kids to know and deeply understand? Then what will be the evidence that kids will use to demonstrate the mastery of these concepts? And finally, what are the learning experiences that you'll put together for them to reach there? But wait, you say, what about technology? Well, frankly, Wiggins doesn't include much of that in his design, but looking at the evidence, media products can play a strong role in demonstrating understandings, and certainly learning experiences can tap into technology to enrich those possibilities. As the Digitail scoring guides for media products were developed, we discovered that not all technology-based projects were expected to serve the job of being evidence of learning. Begin sorting media products into 4 categories. The first 2 blue ones are not about evidence of learning, but about fun or practicing technology skills. And then you have the traditional fact-based learning with students as information consumers. Finally, thinking-based learning, which is where you'll find the evidence for rigor. In the spirit of UBD, we want to begin to think of media products as evidence of learning. And here's a BFO, blinding flash of the obvious. It's not going to be about the hardware. It's going to be about the headware and having a high return on learning. Our goal is to seek higher ground for what's possible. So ready, set, go, explore all the possibilities, but keep your eye on rigor and media products as evidence of learning.
This is probably so obvious I included it in here, but I think it needs to be said. When we start looking at technology, where does it fit? And as you saw in assessment, but we also have to realize that technology is too easily abused in the understanding by design process. Think about it. If we're using technology as just ways for kids to look up things or to do sit and get kind of things, it's nothing more than the warnings that we had about content being the goal. What we need to be looking at is kids' application of understanding through the use of technology. She was using the term media, and I'm fine with that. But think about all the things that you have used in these classes you've taken with me. And they're about creating things that then explain things. I hope you've caught on to that, because that was very deliberately done. I use the products that we use. Yes, they're fun, just like the Go Animate that's a part of this lesson. They're fun, but at the same time, what we're asking you to do is to think and then demonstrate that understanding of your thinking. So let's review where we are. We are watching these videos, and I would recommend you watch them in this order, and that is the first one here where Jay does a pretty lengthy explanation of understanding by design. The second video, which actually we watched all the way through because it's very short, is where he emphasizes the very important aspects of understanding by design, and that is that you plan for where the goal is that you're trying to achieve, and not the reverse. So we always understand where our goal is. What are we trying to do here? And at the same time, kids then demonstrate that understanding through tasks that are transfers of their learning to, if you want to use simple terms, real world activities. It doesn't have to necessarily be that, but it is activities that the kids own, where they're teaching others about the ideas. Then we have Grant. You can probably tell that I have a fondness for Grant over Jay. And I guess maybe it's just because I actually sat in a room and learned with him. But in Grant, he gives you, I think, the real meat. He gets into the passion of what they're trying to do here. And I just enjoy listening to him talk. This is where he, I think, really hits home on the textbook is not the be all and end all. And it's such a good lesson here. Such a good talk. I hope you will really listen to what Grant has to say. And then finally, we skip past this one. It's a Skype call. Not very interesting, frankly. But we did do the Powtoons because it speaks to where is the technology. And I think to my mind, it's in the assessment piece. It can also be in the activities piece where kids are doing things. But really where it comes in is right here. The 6 facets of understanding. Now, nowhere does Wiggins or McTighe sit and say the facets of understanding can use technology to explain them. But what it does do is very clear when you hear someone explain what each one of the facets means, how then technology can play. So let me go ahead and click on this. And let's watch this video, and I think I'll go ahead and just let it run all the way through.
This presentation provides a brief overview of the 6 facets of understanding utilized in the understanding.
She says faucets, I say facets. What are you going to do?
By design model. 6 facets of understanding are adapted from Wiggins and McTeague's Understanding by Design text. Students demonstrate understanding in a variety of ways. Explanation and interpretation is exhibited as students share ideas with each other or with a specified audience using selected words, images, sounds, smells, whatever conveys the message.
Stop and think. How much technology have we played with that does this? Everything from the Schoology signs to Edmodo to placing things into YouTube channels. This is a very straightforward technology, could be a technology-based activity.
Demonstrating application. Students recognize that the same concept can be and often is illustrated in a variety of settings or subject matter. Understanding is also exhibited by students demonstrating an ability to analyze problems from various perspectives with an open mind. Students will recognize that the impact of variables in a system may be positive for some, while at the same time negative for others. In other words, students will recognize that most things in life are not black or white, but various shades of gray. Ultimately, we would like for students to develop a habit of mind in which they practice self-understanding, purposefully thinking about how and what they think.
Again, when you look at these next 3, you're like, well, yeah, we've used GoAnimates, we've used BlendSpace, we've used Animotos, we've used, it's almost endless. We've used Comic Life, this is ways for kids to use tools to demonstrate their understanding and then, by doing so, transfer it to their understandings to new situations. It's just not rocket science. It's very straightforward. And then the last one is the one that, of course, that I'm very interested in, and that's the self-understanding. This goes back to the conversations we had when we were talking about knowledge principles. And to me, this is one of the best things we can do. If kids can use the ability to explain what they understand and then analyze it and say, well, I got this piece right and I got that piece wrong. Why did I get it wrong? Then our job becomes so simple. Self-understanding, or as you know, in my world, I would call this epistemic agency. The ability to be able to talk about what you're learning and how it fits into previous learnings and predicting then what you're going to be able to do with it. This is probably the most powerful way that we can assess students' understanding. The problem with it is that it requires a lot of use of either writing or a tool where we can record and listen. I'll tell you though, I sat and watched a teacher this year who is teaching music to elementary school students, and they all had Chromebooks, and they were recording themselves as they learned the different notes, chords, pickings to play the particular tunes that they were learning in the class. And you could probably guess the tunes were structured. In other words, the first tune they learned was very, very simple. The next tune they learned had a little more complexity and so on. And what was fascinating, though, was watching them do those self-reflections. So how did I do on this song? And then that was all placed into a social media site, a Schoology site, where others could, their partners, their other students, could see what they had done, and then they started making comments. Some, well, when it first started, some were rather nothing. You know, it was like, good job. But then as the school year went on, and at the urging of the teacher, critical comments were being made that were constructive. So much learning was happening within this little simple lesson of how do you play Mary Had a Little Lamb on a ukulele, that it was breathtaking to watch. And the teacher really didn't realize how much was happening until she took a step back and looked in on it and realized how much other learning was going on. Okay, let's see what else we have in here. This is basically just a PDF that if you need it in something that where you can sit and read, here it is. There's the various descriptions of what the 6 facets mean. The other things that are here that might be interesting for you, if you've never looked at rubrics around this idea, you might want to take a look here at these, because there are some things here that are really kind of interesting. Oh dear. Well, that one's not there anymore. I don't know why. We won't worry about it. And let's see if this one's there. Well, neither one is there. Okay, I apologize for those little screw-ups there. I've fixed them. So let me show you what I've got here for you. This first one is a really nice little tool that you feel free to steal. And in fact, I uploaded it as a doc, as well as the link to its originating site. And I think what it really is nice about it, well, I'm just not having much luck with my links today, am I? Let's just go ahead and get the document. And so, as you can see, this is a rubric for the 6 facets of understanding. Now, this is something that you haven't heard yet. The facets of understanding are not hierarchical. There's nothing here that says explanation is better than application, self-knowledge, etc. Okay? So these do not, please do not think that I need to use this one or I need to use that one. It is strictly based upon where's the journey taking you? What is the goal? What is the big idea? But what it does do is it does a nice job then on this side of breaking it down as to how explanation, what a sophisticated one would look like, an in-depth one, a developed one, an intuitive one, and so on. What that would look like. So that's why I included it. It's a nice, it gives you a nice starting point if you want to develop a rubric around a facet of understanding. And then the second one down here is another, this is a PDF. And this one is basically, it explains what each one is. But what I like about it over here is it gives you examples. And we all know that we learn best from examples. So I've included this one as well. Again, I apologize for the links not working there when I was trying to show them to you. This last one down here is UBD binders. This is everything you ever wanted to know about understanding by design in a binder setup. If you've never played with binders before, this is a website where you can use the analogy of a binder system and think of this as like tabs in the binder, and it has all kinds of resources around understanding by design. Okay, so let's now pause for a second, and I'm going to set stages, and then let's go back and look at the task at hand for this first part of understanding by design. Okay, so we've had a pretty good, I think, beginning understanding of how this thing all works. Now let's go to your turn and help me see how you are doing with this. So let's jump down let's jump down to the third one, which says taking a cursory attempt, take a previous lesson standard and use the single page UBD template to create a lesson that could use technologies. Now, let's see how we might do with that. And to help you with it, let's look at one more thing in this module for you. So at the top of the module link, that is the Understanding Articles, Books, and Videos, I have this. This is a link to a Google book, that is the book that the guys use. And what it does is it gives you an understanding of how the process can work. Now, the thing we haven't really talked about, that they spend a lot of time talking about in their book, is the idea of the essential question. Well, we've had essential questions thrown at us for years now. So to a pro teacher, this isn't anything new. But I do like the way they do this. So let's take a look at this wonderful design that they have in their book. So the first thing they want to know is they don't want to know content under topic and big ideas. They want to know what the big idea is. So what is it that we're trying to do here? And then they help you figure that out by going through this nice little exercise here about what essential questions are raised by the idea or topic. What specifically about the idea or topic do you want students to come to understand? And so you can go through this and basically fill in the blanks here. And as you see, this cone then leads us down to essential questions. And then to the understandings that students have. It's such a nice design here. It's such a nice, easy graphic to understand. So let's then take a look at what the assignment looks like over in LiveTech. Now, if you haven't been in here already, the first thing you'll notice when you look at assignments is there's only two. But the reflective papers is where the heavy lifting, frankly, begins. And when you click on that link and you go actually into the template, as you can see, it's broken down into each module. So here was module 1, and now we're to module 2. And as you can see here in module 2, you have the ability to write directly into this, but make sure you turn on your edit button so you can save what you've created. Let's look at what we have here. So we have here the goal. What is it? Where are we headed? Where's the journey's in? Now notice that I have in here in parentheses, technology may be embedded here. Please, please, please pay attention to the second word, may. You don't have to put technology anywhere, just somewhere where it makes sense. So we start here. And then, if you think back on that little exercise we just did, you have your students will understand that. And this is their way of getting around just content. In other words, what is it students are going to be able to understand? It's as simple as that. Work your way down. Students will know. That's their knowledge. Students will be able to, the verbs. Now, in some trainings, this is called the nouns and this is called the verbs, obviously. But here we're just using it this way. Students will know. What are they going to know? And students will be able to. What are they going to be able to? Does this look like this could be where the facets of understanding fits? You betcha. Notice in all of these boxes, may be embedded here. Technology is identified, but may is also the key word. Up here is essential question. Notice I went through this first before I even touched this. Because what I want to do here is I want to have very clear how the essential question then fits with all of this. And then all of this then feeds back to here. And then finally down here, here's your performance task. You might have a rubric that would fit in over here. That's what other evidence is about. Performance task, again, is another reflection of the facets of understanding. It's also down here as well. So this could be, we're going to create, we are going to demonstrate. This is how we do that. Using the tool GoAnimate, we will create a video about our understandings. All I want you to do here is take a swing. Just try. Take a look at this. And if you have, of course, any questions, you know how to reach me. So this is the part that basically is a straight up part about let's take a look at understanding by design, its parts and how it works. And we're going to do a quick demonstration of that here. Now, what's the second part of this? Well, the second part of this is talking about teacher roles, and I will show you now where that lives. So in the second part of the module that has to do with understanding by design, we have a chance to practice what we've been preaching at you. And as beginning our journey with a box of puppies using GoAnimate, here's the article that I want you to read first called Put Understanding First. And this article basically outlines the different styles of teachers and how those styles lead to students demonstrating, acquiring understanding. Okay? And what I want you to do then is, after having read this article, which isn't very long, is to go back and think about who you are. And then I want you to create a GoAnimate that demonstrates that. Now, I hope you were following there. I just clicked on the GoAnimate for Schools, and it takes me here to our site. I click on my name. I'm SB Swan02 at Louisville.edu. My password is ULIT241. And here we are. Now, if you've been around enough, you're probably familiar with how GoAnimate has kind of abandoned all those wonderful themes they used to have. So we're kind of left with just one theme. Well, actually, there's a couple here that kind of fits with what we're trying to do. I would just use this one. And as you know, we can create a template. And with the template, all we're doing is we're basically identifying the setting, we're identifying the characters, and then we are allowing the characters to speak. So what you're being asked to do here, let's go back. You're being asked to create a GoAnimate that is a demonstration of your understandings of the different roles that teachers have. So, with which teacher role, acquisition, meaning, making, and transfer by Wiggins and McTighe do you feel the most comfortable? The least comfortable? Why? Develop a GoAnimate to demonstrate the teacher role you feel best represents your teaching. So we're going to use GoAnimate to do that. Once we have finished the GoAnimate, well, all we're going to do is, and this is important, so hang on. After we have saved it, and after we've titled it, don't title it that, please. Give it something better. again, because this is a group collaborative project, well, all you need to do here is just say post to the group. Now pay attention. We are not going to take it and embed it. All you need to do is copy that URL and place it over into the live text assignment. Once again, go to your live text assignment and just paste it below here, right below the number 5. And remember how you do this. You basically just turn on the edit and then you can paste in here. Don't worry about the fact that it doesn't paste in as an actual link, meaning it's blue and it's underlined. All I do is highlight it and then right click on it and tell it to open it in a new tab, and it comes right up. Not a problem. And because I'm a member of the GoAnimate, when it takes me to that GoAnimate area, I can log right in and see your video. All right, that I think finishes up Module 2 on understanding by design. I hope that you will take the time to watch all the videos completely. I hope you will really take the time to look at the other material that's in here and read. There's lots of things in here that do a much better job of explaining than I've done with this video. But I think you get the idea. Let's review real fast. Understanding by design is very simple. You can't start a journey unless you know where you're going. And when you do that, everything then falls into place. But also remember something that Grant says: the textbook is not the course, that it is a resource for the course. And what you're trying to get to is kids doing demonstrations of understanding with transfer. And if you can get that, and the whole purpose of UBD is to help you sort of work your way through the mass of content that is expected of us to teach, it helps you focus in on what are the important things that kids need to know. That's it for module number 2. Thank you for your attention.